absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's happening then? Come on, you tell me what you think's going on.
I'm concerned that what's going on is a real. I don't want to call it a collapse of civilization, but the reversal of humans and institutions and systems. That all the things that we set up to help us or to express who we are doing the opposite. So even something as simple as education. We started schools, public schools, as a way to give something back to all the co-workers, so they'd be able to, at least when they're not in the caves breathing in that black crap, at least they could sit and read a Dostoevsky novel and understand it.
And their children might work in the office instead.
Right. And now education is not that gift back to the worker. Now education is training for the worker. Now the principals of the schools and the presidents of the colleges talk to corporations. What should we teach the students so that they can be a better worker for you? So it's become an extension of the market rather than a compensation for being a laborer. And I feel like everything's reversed like that. The internet reversed from this great crazy home for the counterculture to the
supermarket in the sky.
And the tool of surveillance, and the thing that's actually trying to wipe out any nook or cranny or strange space.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I'm in some databases.
Oh, but the thing is,
and you too, of course.
Everyone though,
Yeah.
not even. You don't have to be dangerous. You just because being a thinking human, having autonomy, having any unpredictability. It's funny. Way back when, in the very
is that
beginning,
why we still think that the cut-up is such a powerful
Yeah.
tool?
Now, these experiments started not on tape recorders, but on paper. In 1959, Brian Geisen said that writing is 50 years behind painting and applied the montage technique to words on a page. And this technique had already been used in painting at that time for 50 years. It was, in fact, kind of old hat in painting. Brian copied out phrases from newspapers and magazines, then took a scissors and cut these selections into pieces and rearranged the fragments at random. And these cut-up experiments appeared in Minutes to Go in 1959. When you experiment with cut-ups over a period of time, you find that some of the cut-ups and rearranged text seem to refer to future events. I cut up an article written by John Paul Getty and got, "It's a bad thing to sue your own father." This was a rearrangement and wasn't in the original text. And a year later, one of his sons did sue him. We had no explanation for this at the time, it just suggesting that perhaps when you cut into the present, the future leaks out. But we simply accepted it and continued the experiments. The next step was cut-ups on the tape recorder, and Brian was the first to take this obvious step. Now here are some tapes which Brian made with all the technical facilities of the BBC in London, and they show, I think, what can be done with a human voice and one phrase.
All active, calling all reactive agents. All active, calling all active agents, calling all active agents, calling all active agents, calling all agents reactive, calling all reagents active. All agents active, calling all agents reactive, calling all active agents, calling all agents active, calling reagents active, calling reactive, all agents, calling all reactive agents, calling active, all reagents, calling agents, all reactive, calling all reactive, calling agents, calling, re-all calling active agents, re-all active agents calling, re-all agents active calling, re-all calling active agents, calling all reactive, agents calling re-all active, agents calling active, all re-agents calling all active, re-agents calling reactive, all agents calling active, re-all reactive agents all calling, reactive agents all calling, reactive calling agents all recalling all activations, recalling activations all, recalling agents active all,
And if you remember, I don't know, in 1995 or 96, we were talking about the very beginnings of surveillance technology. And you said, oh, Douglas, anomalous behavior is the best form of resistance. In other words, just do strange things. Throw random things into your life. Just go turn left when you would have turned right.
Right.
And it will confuse, the people who are trying to...
And the algorithms, too.
Right. Confuse those algorithms. Although I guess the algorithms figure that out. Oh, you're one of those anomalous people. Let's put him in that category.
Yeah. Those algorithms.
We would need everybody going random.
Well, yeah.
We had a guest on the show early on, a guy named Mushan, and he did an app called, I forgot. It was an ad blocking app. But instead of just blocking the ads, when you go on the web and they throw those things, instead of just blocking the ads, it hid all the ads from you, but in the background it clicked on everything. Just to create this noise for the
so it overloaded everything.
Just click.
Wow.
Clicked at everything so you just start looking like this person who's clicking on everything and they can't tell anything.
That's nice.
It was called ad nauseum.
Of course. What happened to it?
It's still around. It was more of a demonstration, I think, but it's fun though. If you turn all the ads off, if you turn all the trackers off, if you stop with your cookies and things stop working. You can't get the net if they don't let them watch you.
Really?
There's no... You can use certain,
And we don't bother being paranoid because there's no point, about that.
What are they going to do? Where are they going to take you? I'm not paranoid about someone coming after me. I'm more paranoid about the ability of the algorithms to entrain me. I don't like knowing that what shows up for me is being designed to change my behavior or stimulate my fears, which is what they're looking for.
I just erase every ad that comes up. I must be really frustrating for them because I'm just not
You still
interested.
do Google searches. You still click on things.
Very rarely. Very, very rarely. I basically still use the computer as a clever typewriter.
Yeah. Well, and that's the only way I feel good after I've used it. But when you reach, on the one hand, that extended brain and all that data is so empowering. But on the other hand, it's so decentering.
It really disconnects. It doesn't connect at all. People are getting more disconnected all the time. It really disconnects. It doesn't. It really disconnects. It really disconnects. It really disconnects. People are getting more disconnected. People are getting more disconnected.
I hate to sound nostalgic, though.
Cut up the past and the future leaks out.
I always had the suspicion of this idea that there's the good stuff and the bad stuff. I don't think it's like that. I think being decent is a process that's hard. It's like doing science or working in technology. You have to get results. You don't necessarily know what'll work.
Cut up the past and the future leaks out. The art of literally cutting up text and images in random fashion and then reassembling them to form a new and unexpected patterns.
I resonate with what you were saying about how program or be programmed, which obviously is a theme we've heard before, but it made me think of, everything you do, absolutely everything you do in your existence creates some level of entropy that influences your environment. So every thought, every bit of energy, every action that you perform, everything that you're involved with, even if in your eyes, on your scale, you don't see it affecting a lot, maybe your piece of art has 40 viewers, but one of those 40 viewers, you've triggered something in their mind that's made them create something that maybe is seen by thousands of people. And then within those thousands of people, it triggers something in those people, and they, these actions trigger other things in people, and it's cumulative entropy that actually pushes these ideas, these vibes, these energies forward out onto the world to create these new things, to actually change things.
Cut up the past and the future leaks out. The art of literally cutting up text and images in random fashion and then reassembling them to form a new and unexpected patterns. By doing so, one can destabilize language, perception, and reality and get closer to the truth.
I felt so lonely. I felt like just a kind of deep black loneliness, and part of how I found my way out of it was with these fantasies of ways to reach across to other people's hidden minds that were hidden inside these funny sacks of skin, these heads, and
You have entered the mind's underground.
Have we lost a conceptual spiritual ambition? Have we become more technocratic and lost this idea that there can be these radical transformations in human existence? And if so, is that a bad thing?
Yeah, well, that is the question, actually. I'm haunted by that question. I do think that there was a certain utopian spirit that got subsumed maybe by corporate marketing in Silicon Valley, where these days when you hear something's going to change the world, you just dismiss it because it's just the latest, Silicon Valley cloud thing. It's said all the time and it doesn't mean anything anymore. And your question about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is a hard one to answer. As I was saying before, I'm really suspicious of utopian thinking, even though when I was younger, I was a pretty good channel for it at times. I think it's probably some sort of a question of balance. I think a little bit of it, especially when you're young, is a good thing. I think it's important not to take too much of the world as given. But what I flash on when you ask that question is how Steve Bannon adopted the language of sort of the left intellectuals of the same period about deconstruction, and this idea that the whole world we've been given is corrupt and must be destroyed, and then as soon as we destroy the bad things, the bad thoughts and the bad people, then everything will be great. It's the same fallacy I was talking about before. I mean, that's the danger in utopian thinking, is that it can turn you into a pointless vandal very, very easily. I think the more useful thinking is to think of betterment as a project that's a challenge, rather than just think of the world as being annoying because we just have to get rid of the bad people and everything will be okay. If you can have just enough of utopian feeling that you do question the world as it is and imagine how it could be better, I think that's a wonderful thing. But if you take it too far, you actually undermine yourself. So I would say like a homeopathic utopianism I will support.
If moral programmers knew poetry and moral poets knew programming, I'm convinced the world would be a lot better place. Cut up the past and the future leaks out. The art of literally cutting up text and images in random fashion and then reassembling them to form a new and unexpected patterns. By doing so, one can destabilize language, perception, and reality and get closer to the truth.